All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back from the tea break. My name is Ramesh Daryanani. I work with Marriott International, and I have the absolute pleasure of facilitating this session around the future of distribution. Why don't I first talk to, when we've tried to explain distribution to a lot of the industry folks, there's one slide that traditionally used to come up, and let me get the guys to flip to that slide if you can. The next slide, please. One after that. As you think about this, some of you might think, damn, it's complex. There are a lot of moving parts here, there are a lot of touch points, but it doesn't have to be. And especially if you're a hotel that gets a lot of leisure business, where you've traditionally signed those static contracts with your partners, just when you thought it was all exclusive and hidden, the fact is, as soon as your rates are out there with one partner across any channel, they get out to every channel. And I think that's the risk that you need to think about as we think about the future of distribution. In a highly dynamic and a connected world, as our systems get upgraded, as technology evolves, there are no hidden secrets. So in order to take us through what's changed, what you should be aware of, and for many of you hoteliers here, if you go back to your office tomorrow and your general manager or your leader says, "What did you learn?" I can guarantee you have something to take away from this session. So let me invite my industry peers up on stage. Sarah, June, and Mark, please. Let's do some quick introductions first so people know a little bit about what you do in your respective roles. So Sarah, can I start with you? Could you briefly introduce yourself and what you do in your role?
Sure. This is great timing because I spent the first decade of my career in energy and sustainability, focused on the built environment and specifically in hospitality, and then most recently technology and now travel. So I'm with Expedia Group, and I lead the chain business, so the lodging strategic partner business for APAC.
Thank you, Sarah. Mark?
Hi, everyone. Good to see you, and good to be back with HSMAI. As you can see from my description, I was one of the founding members, so been here for a while. So for me, I'm representing small luxury hotels. We actually represent the independent hotel community that do not belong to any of the big boys in the room here. We have roughly about 540 hotels right now globally. Within Asia, I look after about 110 of them. And we are mostly looking after the sales, marketing, and distribution strategies for our hotels. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mark. June, over to you while I find the clicker here.
Cool, good to be here. I was a revenue manager myself a long time ago with Hilton, in New York and Shanghai and Singapore. And I joined Booking.com and Trip.com, and I joined Derbysoft since last year. So the last time I've been to a HSMAI event when I was a student back then in New York. So it feels like just, all the memory coming back. Derbysoft is a very low-profile company. I guess most of you don't know us much. But we actually power about 200,000 plus hotel globally to all kinds of distribution and digital marketing. And we'll be very, very happy and to share what we do and some of the insight that we've got. Thank you.
Thank you, June. All right, folks, so just a few housekeeping notes. Keep it short, keep it precise, just so we can hit these guys with all the great information that you have in your heads. But Mark, let me start with you. From an independent hotelier standpoint, as you look at distribution, what's changed? What have we learned coming out of COVID? And what do you think lies ahead for hoteliers in this space?
Well, for independent hotels, as a few of you are in the room, I think what we've seen coming back from pandemic, of course, is the revenge travel wave that you guys are experiencing and enjoying. And I think for us is because we're so fragmented and there's no corporate system or conformity in terms of the way that you're doing it, that as a one level up for us is to be able to help you guys level up the playing field. so that when you're out there in terms of direct channels, you're getting a lot of, maybe through your websites or through other means of direct channel and reliance on OTAs. But then also for us is now, how can we help you look at other areas of distribution? Because I think the future of moving forward independence is be able to compete in the space where the big boys are going with. And we're looking at now the return of a lot of travel agencies that are helping clients book. Don't forget that portion of the travel trade has been very, very strong coming back from the pandemic. And that part of it, you might not have access to a lot of the travel GDS or the traditional channels, which I saw you guys are rating it as one of the last few traditional channels. That actually has been coming back in very strong post-pandemic because of all the travel itineraries. All the travel agencies are being consulted because the consumers don't know how to travel again in the new environment. So the travel networks, actually, we have seen a huge rise in terms of a resurgence of business. So the GDS part of it, you should not neglect and not be just, be taken away with all the shiny new toys of the AIs and technology. So I think for future is to reassess where your customers are coming from and really look at, moving forward, what are your new group of customers coming through and also interacting with you through those channels.
Great, thank you, Mark. Sarah, can I go on to you? Expedia over the years has pivoted from a business model standpoint. And, there's some interesting things that I know you wanted to share with the group, but in your view, what's changed? What should the hoteliers pay attention to as they go back to their offices tomorrow?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of things have changed over the last few years. I mean, we talked a lot about the diversity of new channels, from email to chat to many others. Technology is something we've talked about a lot today. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, helping to create more personalized experiences. And also, there's been a change in customer preferences. So if you can go to the next slide, I thought I'd share some insights with you. So this is the Traveler Index survey that Expedia does once a year. And it shows that there's about half of the people that we talk to feel like wellness and physical and mental health are priorities for them in terms of travel. That's something that obviously came out of COVID, a change in priorities. I don't think that's going to change. The second thing is just the desire to have new experiences, to get out there and do things differently, to stretch yourself. So a lot of opportunities for activities and richer guest experiences. And then the last one that I think we've also heard a lot about today is loyalty. So loyalty, majority of people, I would say, feel that it's the most important to travel with loyalty programs. And they value discounts, as we talked about earlier, from those programs most. So 75% of traveler suppliers are actually creating these programs, Expedia being one. But I think you're going to see a huge area of focus in this space.
Got it. Thank you, Sarah. And I know you have one more slide that you wanted to share with us, which is, on the technology side. You've made some big bets in this space. So could you share more?
We have, and again, I think technology is really paving the way. Nothing new than what we talked about earlier today, but I just want to give you some specific examples of why it's so important, I think, to provide travelers with information and actions when they need it. And also for partners to have the ability to take advantage of that through all the other channels that Mark was talking about earlier so that they can engage with their travelers in new and exciting ways. So the two examples that we have, the first one is attribute-based shopping. We talked about this before, but it really allows guests to have clear differentiation between rates, prices, and add-ons so they can create their own experience. So it really allows them to self-serve. That's something that we rolled out, and we've seen 4.4% increase in conversion to premium room types as a result. So that's phenomenal. I'd say the second thing is around artificial intelligence and machine learning. And one thing that we specifically did was price tracking. So this rolled out last year as well. It started with flights, and now it's in the lodging space. but it allows people to use the data, the historical data and future data, to predict fluctuations in pricing, but set up alerts so that they can then book at the time that's right for them based on the price they want, and also get the rewards. So this launched in 2022, July, and within 6 months, we had 3 million people signing up for these alerts. So obviously that's great. It's something that shows people want this information, and obviously it results in higher conversion and higher app adoption. So just the power of technology.
Oh, brilliant. And it just goes to show that if customers now want to track hotel prices, it's so important that we get it right, and how we distribute it as well becomes a whole lot more important as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, June, let's move over to you. From Derbysoft's standpoint, what are you seeing differently?
Definitely. As I say, I was a revenue manager many years ago, and when I look at this morning's topic around a lot of like segmentation, different types of pricing, it feels like nothing has really changed. But then if you look at the chart, the whole distribution complication Ramesh just show up, you feel like it's really complicated. So it's interesting. I think a lot of people don't understand what we do in terms of distribution and revenue management. It's very complex. But I think at the end of the day, we have to look at some of the data and get to the core of the problems and to find out what is the best way for the hotel to maximize the revenue. So in this case, again, I think this morning you guys have seen a lot of data from different companies. Our data is different. Our data is connectivity related. So I say we do about 200, 300,000 hotels globally, power all kinds of transactions and meta bidding and all that. So not surprisingly, you can see APAC is really leading in terms of the volume, and Europe is leading in ADR. I guess some of it is the exchange rate up and down, right? Next slide, please. And in revenue management, talking about booking windows and length of stay, I was so surprised to see that, you see the number? One night business account for, was that more than 1/3? It was pretty significant portion of APAC business. And those are talking about significant number of hotels in the connectivity world. I would personally guess that this is a one night business traveler. So it's really something that for us to look into yield management, what are the opportunities that we can do. And European, and not surprisingly, they still have more confidence to book further out. So if you have the source market coming from Europe, it's something for you to look at. Next slide, please. So I'm going to focus in on the APAC couple of regions, and in terms of recovery, a lot of the countries in Southeast Asia are doing quite well. In terms of the ADR, I don't think I need to speak too more. I mean, if you guys come in not from the town, you realize how much you have to pay for the Singapore hotel. Then you know that the ADR is really booming in these markets. Next slide, please. This is important as revenue manager. When you look through your computer, looking into segmentations, I think everybody will have different assumptions. Should leisure be recovered first? Should bar be recovered first? Or should wholesale be recovered first? I don't have the answer for everybody, but I think if you look at this data, it would be very interesting. Wholesale is jumping up in terms of the volume, and bar is jumping up in terms of ADR. Does that sound right? Does that sound okay from your perspective? I think this is the whole thing that goes back to Ramesh's point that are there still static contract rate out there? If the occupancy is so high, what should you be doing? So those are the things to look at. So the next two slides, I'm going to give you some of the further insights. So again, this reconfirms the business travel. I think if you have friends in TMC business, those guys are so busy right now with groups, MICE, events like this, up and down. It clearly is coming back, all kinds of data. And if you look at even the last few quarters, both volume and ADR is recovering. I mean, it's not easy for business travel to recover so much so quickly in ADR. It tells that the retail portion of the BTS is really driving because everything else is fixed. So for the overall BTS to recover in ADR, you can see that the market has really some resilience. And the last slide, please. Again, there's still 80-20% rule that the big guys are dominant at the volume. But look at out there. There are emergent players out there. There are interesting TMCs out there. There are companies like Airbnb, Hopper, those ITs, cool technology company. I mean, they are driving much more significant growth. So as the hotelier, I mean, are those the new business that you need to be on the lookout in terms of distributions? And not to mention that I think the independent and the smaller guys are catching up to the global guys. They are looking into more technologies to catch up to Marriott and the Hiltons, for example, right? So some of the insight to share with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to just stay on this slide because you've heard today demand is back. You saw June's slide, which talks to connected wholesale business is growing. But we still have hotels out there that have static contracts with wholesalers, with tour operators. And I want to ask, and maybe for good reason, but as we look at demand shifting, we look at a highly connected environment that we all want to aspire to, when is the time to cut the cord, right? And Mark, I want to come to you because as an independent, you might have independent hotels that don't have the infrastructure, but they have the ability to plug into different platforms and partners, right? So from your point of view, should static rates with wholesalers or tour operators stay, or should they go? And if they should go, is it now?
Well, I don't drive anybody out of business, but from our example is we seldom actually go into this wholesale, we call it wholesale space in general, because as a whole in general, my hotels are usually very small. It's usually about 50 to 100 rooms. So when you talk about allocation and static rates and stuff like that, you can't basically allocate anything to a particular supplier. By the time you allocate everything else, you got nothing to sell. So what we have taken is there is definitely growth in this area that we want to tap on. It's a new opportunity, revenue opportunity. How can you optimize that channel? So what we have taken upon is last year we launched what we call net rates program. We don't want to call it wholesale because of net rates program, is be able to be dynamic, for one, and two, real-time inventory and rates. By using technology that's available out there through our technology partner, we are now able to offer these suppliers that are able to use our inventory to package with other things like travel, airline travel, sea tours or whatever it is, and put it together for their clients. So it's a B2B2C proposition that we are entering into this space as additional revenue opportunity for our hotels at a very dynamic way, so that we are never sort of locked into a certain rate or based on seasonality, or we're locked into a certain inventory based on size of the hotel.
All right, thank you, Mark. June, what are you seeing? I mean, you see a spectrum of different types of hotel companies. You've got a lot of partners now reaching out to you to create a dynamic environment for them as well, because they do realize they need to evolve and change. So, but what are you seeing? Are you seeing a lot of resistance? Are you seeing people evolve? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so when Ramesh asked me for this question, I try to get some real data to show. But unfortunately, we have rockets flying to the sky and people talking about AI and ChatGPT, and then I realized that a lot of the hotel system cannot even differentiate single breakfast pricing from double breakfast pricing. So it's really, it's weird. I mean, it's really difficult to label static rate from the dynamic rates. If your bar rate never change, then it becomes static rates. And a lot of the static rate have like 20 different seasons in the calendar. Can it be dynamic? So, but long story short, we have a lot of the partners, big guys, smaller, medium hotel chains. The general trend is that the global chains are cutting down static rates like crazy. so much more, so much less. The small, medium, the independents are following, but the pace of doing so are much, much less. And again, to Mark's point, they could be contract and situation that is necessary. I was talking to airline friends. They still have stated rates in their corporate contract and in the GDS loading because it's needed. But in the new DNC distribution, everything is dynamic. So could that be our future when we have the standard in place? I think that's a question that we can think about.
Sounds good. So Sarah, could you talk to some of the solutions that are available to hotels today so they can streamline their distribution? And as you talk through those, do you see any opportunities or risks that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, sure. So I think there's a few things out there that will help. There's market insights, there's revenue optimization tools. One thing that Expedia has done recently to try and help address this spaghetti graph that you showed earlier was something called optimized distribution. Now, it's pretty obvious what that is. I think it's a terrible name, by the way, so I think we need to come up with something better. But it does just that, right? So it's meant to allow our partners to increase their reach as well as their revenue opportunities and still maintain B2B or control of their B2B strategies through our network. So we have a network of third-party trusted advisors that can cross segments like loyalty. There's an OTA segment, but there's other segments as well, like banking, and there's 60,000 of them, and that's growing. And there are other solutions out there in the market that are similar. Obviously, we started this with Marriott to solve a specific challenge that existed in the market, and that was a few years ago. Now we have 36 chains. We started again with the global chains because they were committed to moving away from static rates. We moved to key chains, and now, I think there's a role for it in every part of the ecosystem. But just an amazing proof point is an 80% reduction in rogue rates that we've seen. So I think that it's gone a really, really significant way to help solve some of the challenges that are out there. And I see this as a huge growth area, as I said, across the different segments. Now, is there still a role for static? Yes, and I'll say APAC is probably one of the markets that's been slower for many different reasons to move away from that. But I do think maybe there will continue to be a role, but I think it will shift in that direction over time.
Yeah, and I think to your point, even if it does exist, if static does exist, it's going to be very limiting. And for any partner that's looking to really expand and provide a breadth of solutions to their customers, it will have to be in the dynamic environment.
Absolutely.
Right? So for the hoteliers here in the room, Sarah said something very important, right? Using this solution helped reduce all the rogue rates that were out there. It helps reduce claims. I know none of you, whether you're a revenue leader or a sales leader or a general manager, like to get calls from customers saying that they got a cheaper rate through another channel. And we spend a lot of time firefighting that. And if this solution can help you build credibility, help reduce all the manual work that your teams do so they can be more strategic, I think that's a great win for our hotels. It will take time. It was not easy for us, and I'm sure for all the chains that have been a part of the journey, it's never easy to start. But once you're on that journey, it does get better. And as long as you stay committed to it, it does. So, June, you talked to, the airlines. Are there any other industries across, Sarah, Mark, and June, that you think that as a hotel industry we can learn from as they've gone about distributing in a dynamic or a connected environment?
Yeah, I think, definitely the airlines, but I think for most people in this room, airline could seem a little bit more distance. I think they're bigger guys within the industry that you can look up to. But more importantly, they're even, I think a lot of us in this room are revenue manager. We're talking about in a hotel of 200 rooms, there could be like 300 staff. For the 300 staff building, there's only one revenue manager / distribution / reservation manager. So I understand that, it's sometimes it's bizarre. It's so complicated. The big boys, don't have time to talk to us. And the smaller guys, I don't have time to manage like 500 different, emerging distribution channels. What should I do? I think, my advice is that, one, we really have to think about from the perspective of customers. We often say that when you work in a hotel, customer number one. I never felt that when I was working in a hotel. I was doing spreadsheet segmentation, I doing all kinds of pricing grids. I feel so passionate and powerful. But then I never realized that when you actually go outside on the website, on the web, all the prices that I think they should be in different prices in right orders is never the case. Ramesh said that you offer something to somebody thinking that it's going to be fans and only to that person, then before you know it, it's everywhere on the internet. So I think to start with, we have to think about distribution and revenue management from the customer's perspective. It's not from sitting behind a computer doing the segmentation and pricing structure. And secondly, really use technology. I mean, there are technology out there that can help you effectively manage 300, 400 distribution channels with good data, visibility. I mean, Expedia, for example, the B2B action that has that kind of visibility. There's many other solutions out there that can help you, without the power of the big distribution, but still enable you to make smarter decisions that fulfill the need of the customer out there, right?
Thanks, Jun. Sarah, Mark, anything that you wanted to add before we go to our takeaways?
I just had one. I think the obvious one is obviously the retail and e-commerce space, but I would be remiss not to talk about the focus on personalization, creating, targeted and unique experiences, and the focus on just guest experience in general. Customer lifetime value is something that's talked about often. It's a key metric in that space. It's something that we're just now starting to talk a lot about in the hospitality space. But I think it's incredible to think about not just how the customer gets to you, but what you do with them when they're there, right? I think that's the most important thing. And so if we change our mindset and learn from that, that's where you're going to get your loyal members that stay, repeat visits, stay longer, spend more. So I think it's incredibly important to shift our thinking.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to stay with you since you have some key takeaways for the team. As we've had this discussion, I'm sure there's some more that have sort of popped in your head. But very quickly, in your view, if you have to leave 3 key takeaways for this team, could you talk through that?
Sure, and I think just to be clear, I think this is tips for hoteliers of any size. It sounds really basic, but it's fundamental and true. So the first one is be agile to market changes. I think we're all aware of the volatility that exists in the market and how important it is to analyze competitive price intelligence data and tools and market performance together to understand where your customers are booking and what prices they're responding to, and just being really, really agile to that. And then knowing your high-value travelers. This sounds, again, like something everybody would do, but they're changing, and they're changing very often. Now with international demand coming back, it's really important to figure out where those lucrative travelers are coming from. What are the source markets? How are they booking? What kind of experiences are they looking for so that you can target them more effectively? And the last one we've talked about a lot today, which is really play to your strengths. Of course, it's important to be on top of data analysis and have really strong and robust revenue strategies. But if that's not your forte or your core, there's a ton of great tools that are out there in the market, and that's just one example. So invest and spend time in your core strength and lean into that.
Great, thank you. Great takeaways. June, what golden nuggets do you have for the team?
Yeah, I think we talk about this. Hotel system are not perfect. I mean, most systems don't even support attribute-based pricing or even child-based pricing, and yet we are in the distribution and revenue management. We need to think about how to maximize billions and millions of revenue for our properties, for our owners. I really think that there are technologies out there that we can embrace. Less manual work really use the technology, for the room mappings, make sure you have complete contents. A lot of the suites and the premium room types are not uploaded in the channels because of whatever reason, but those are perfect upsell opportunity that you can leverage using the technology that you can reach out effectively to so many partners. And I was in your shoes, so the big guys, of course, it's very important. But they are, as you see from the data just now, there are still emerging channels. I mean, China outbound could be one of them. Social media could be another one. I mean, there's emerging TMC, that are not traditional, that can play to your strengths, and how you can effectively use them to maximize your revenue. Again, at the end of the day, whether you say we do a good bar or leisure or BTS, direct versus indirect, at the end of the day, you have to play to what you want. If the bar business is not profitable compared to BTS, then maybe PTS is more important than bar. So at the end of the day, you have to look at the true number, not just because of this is direct or indirect. You have to calculate the true profitability, like Ramesh mentioned, that distribution strategy is about maximize your revenue with the most profitable business, and you have to look at the number to understand which channel, which number give you that, and it doesn't have to be the traditional ones. It could be different. So you are in control. That's my point. The distribution and revenue manager really are in control of your business.
Thank you, June. Thank you. And finally, Mark, your takeaways for the team.
Yeah, so I would say the GDS isn't dead yet, so I have GDS friends in the room. I'm still here. I think we've seen a big resurgence with the GDS, and why I'm saying that also because GDS is also not for corporate travel, as you can see the new trend of people traveling, coming back from pandemic. People are, coming back from the digital nomads, the leisure travel, all these new keywords that you are starting to see popping up. And these are merging the lines or blurring the lines between corporate travel and leisure travel. So again, not to discount all your travel trade, your travel partners. Do take good care of them and make sure that you are getting and optimizing the opportunities that you have through the travel trade, through the traditional channels. The other one is, of course, not to hit on Expedia, but again is OTAs. Again, is like looking at a more holistic way. You might have looked at your customer mix right now and say, okay, some of the customers have come back, some have not come back. What are the ones that you want to keep and which one you want to pursue moving forward? This is a very good opportunity that we have hit the restart button for you to evaluate your distribution channel and see which part you really want to invest in. Like Jun said, it might not be the traditional ones. It might be the social media. I mean, all of us you're looking after the China market, for example. You might not want to be investing so much on the website because nobody's going to book through the website. Everyone's going to book through WeChat. So again, it's like, is that an area that you need to look into? Because all the chatbots are now going into payment systems. Like WhatsApp just launched in Singapore this week, payment system gateway. So again, new channels of distribution, complicating that chart even more. I think the next time you will need another screen for a distribution channel for your spaghetti screen. And then the last thing is independent hotels. You are not alone, right? You're independent for a reason. You want to stay independent for a reason. But at the same time, we are not alone. There's a lot of people that are willing to partner with you. Go out there, look up upstream, downstream of the travel trade, and see how they can partner with people that are of the like consumers that are potentially your customers. Because those are very important opportunities and revenue opportunities that you might be missing. So again, if not, worst come to worst, come and see me. We're part of SLH.
I feel like this is the Oscars, and we're being like, there's some music playing that's telling us to like wrap it up.
Yeah. But listen, thank you for your takeaways. I think if I could leave two things with you, take control of inventory. The time is now with demand coming back. And as technology evolves, embrace it. Don't be the dinosaur in the room. You don't want to be the dinosaur in the room. So, ladies and gentlemen, we might have some time for some quick questions. Any questions for the panel? From anyone? Unless we were crystal clear. Yes. We have a mic. Behind you.
I hope that was scary. Hi, I'm Anish. I'm from the Radisson Group, so it's not as big as the Hiltons and Marriotts, but an upcoming chain. But my question, I think, for all of you on the panel would be, if you are shifting your business to Expedia from a B2B perspective, 10 years from now, isn't there a fear factor that we might be putting all our eggs again into one basket? And I love Expedia, don't get me wrong, don't change my hotel placements. But what if they start, dominating and, controlling then the commission? Aren't we deja vu? All eggs in one basket again. I don't have the answer, but I'm just throwing it out there for
No, absolutely.
some of the bigger boys out there.
I'll give you our perspective. Our perspective is that it takes a change in mindset. We don't see Expedia as a competitor. We see Expedia as a technology partner as we go about this. And so far, our results have proven that this partnership works. We are seeing a drastic reduction in claims where people are saying, they've got better rates through some other channel. We're seeing more profitable business come through our online channels, because it's not just about Expedia. It's about how you show up through all those channels that are out there. And if you can control what we do in this space, where you've got rogue rates, static rates, all these kind of offers out there that don't help with parity, it impacts the entire ecosystem, right? So the way I see it is, we've seen a great uptick come through our direct channels, because customers know exactly that there's credibility with our pricing. They know that they will get the same price on .com, or if they want to package it through our partner solutions team, they'll find that there as well. But what we find is, we're not a technology company, right? We're a hospitality company. And that's where I think Expedia as a solution comes in with their expertise to upgrade that technology as and when required, so that our partners around the world and customers have more choice as June talked to. Whether you want 4 people in a room, 5 breakfasts, you want to package other components, we're going to write a lot of code right now to try and accommodate that. But if that's solved for, I'd rather focus on that profitable business that's coming through than the nickels and dimes at the back end. Again, that's just my humble take on it. But anything to add, Sarah, June, or Mark?
No, I think that was a great summary. Just this week, actually, it's our annual event called Explore in the U.S., and we focused a lot on our vision to be a technology platform and our investments in fraud. So we're really trying to look at holistically what are some challenges that our customers are facing or our partners are facing in the market, and trying to tackle those. So it's a technology play, and it's much broader. Our vision is certainly not to be, the biggest, specifically in the OTA, biggest OTA in the world. Yeah, we want to focus on driving incremental value for our partners.
Thanks, Sarah. Great question, though. Thank you for asking it. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you to the panel for the great discussion. Hope you found it beneficial. Thanks once again.
Thank you so much.